Think you can't retire at 60 with $200,000? The standard calculators are lying to you. Let's look at the real math.
So can you really retire at 60 with $200,000 in the bank? I mean, for real. Most of what you read out there would have you believe it's absolutely impossible, a total catastrophe waiting to happen. But you know what? The reality is a whole lot more nuanced than that. So today, we're going to do something different. This is a special deep dive. We're going to completely bypass all that typical, scary advice and build a new plan from the ground up. A plan that's actually built for the real world. All right, you ready? Let's get into this. First things first, let's get our feet on solid ground. This number you're looking at, this is the one nobody in the financial world really wants to talk about. The Federal Reserve tells us that the median retirement savings for people between 55 and 64 is just $91,500. Now remember, that's not the average. The average gets totally skewed by the billionaires. This is the median. That means half, literally half, of all households in that age bracket have less than this. So if you're sitting there with $200,000, listen to me, you are not alone. In fact, you're already way ahead of the curve. This entire explainer is built for that reality, not some millionaire fantasy. So here's the game plan. Think of this as our journey together for the next few minutes. First, we're going to expose what I call the wrong retirement ruler. It's the thing that's causing all this anxiety. Then we'll shift gears and adopt a totally new way of thinking, the gas station mindset. After that, we'll finally solve for your real retirement number, the income gap. From there, I'm going to walk you through a super simple but effective 3-pile survival plan. And we'll wrap it all up with 3 concrete things you can actually go and do this week. Okay, let's dive into section 1, the wrong retirement ruler. This is all about pulling back the curtain and seeing why basically every retirement calculator you've ever plugged your numbers into seems designed to give you a heart attack. Let's break down why those numbers feel so terrifyingly wrong. And this right here, this is the core idea of everything we're talking about today. That pit in your stomach you feel, it's probably not because your savings are too small. It's because the tools you're using to measure your future were built for a totally different problem, for a totally different person. It's like you've been trying to measure a cross-country road trip with a 6-inch ruler. It's not the right tool for the job. So it's time we get the right tool. So let's look at the math that creates all the panic. This is exactly what a standard retirement calculator does. It takes your total savings, that $200,000, and it assumes you need to pull every single dollar of your expenses, let's say it's $2,400 a month, directly from that pot of money. Now, even if we're generous and assume a steady 4% growth, just look at the table. Year after year, that balance just goes down and down and down until you hit 76. And then, as you can see right there in that last row, poof, it's gone. The account is empty. This right here is the math that tells millions of people they can never, ever retire. But here's the secret. This math is missing the most important parts of the whole picture. Okay, so if that old math is wrong, what's the right way to think about it? Well, that brings us right into section 2, the gas station mindset. This is where we literally take that old broken ruler and we just toss it out. We're going to adopt a whole new mental framework. And this isn't just some small adjustment. This is a complete 180 in perspective that's going to change how you see your entire retirement. Here it is. This is the model. Your $200,000 is not your total fuel for a 30-year trip. Thinking that way is a recipe for anxiety and failure. I want you to start thinking of it like this. It's a gas tank, and it's maybe 40% full. Now, could you drive from New York to California on a tank that's 40% full? Of course not. That's ridiculous. And this is where the old model just stops and gives up, but our new one is just getting started. See, the journey isn't impossible because we've all been forgetting something absolutely crucial. It's this. There are gas stations all along your route. The standard retirement conversation just completely ignores them. Social Security? That's not just some little check that shows up. That's a gas station you can pull into every single month. A paid-off house? That's not just a place to live. It's a massive gas station that saves you thousands. A little part-time income? That's not a sign you failed at retirement. It's another gas station. You see? The whole problem changes. It's not about starting the journey with a completely full tank anymore. It's about having a better map, one that shows you exactly where you can refuel along the way. Okay, this is great. So on to section 3, solving your income gap. Now that we have the right mindset, now that we know there are gas stations, we can finally do the real math of retirement. And this calculation, this is the one number that matters more than anything else. It's the number that completely rewrites the problem. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. For decades, the entire industry has been asking the wrong fear-based question. How long will your savings last to cover everything? It's a scary question, but we're going to ask a much smarter and, frankly, much more solvable question. How long will my savings need to last just to fill the gap between my guaranteed income and my expenses? See the difference? Your portfolio doesn't have to replace your entire paycheck. It just has one job: fill a gap. And that, my friends, is a much smaller, much more manageable problem to solve. So what happens when we use the right math? Let's look. In that first scary example, the money ran out at age 76, right? Now let's take the same person, same expenses, but let's say you take Social Security at 62 and it gives you $1,250 a month. Your expenses are still $2,400, so the gap your portfolio actually needs to fill is just $1,150. Now look at the chart. All of a sudden, that same $200,000 portfolio lasts until you're 84. The only thing that changed was the question we asked. We just focused on the gap. And by doing that one simple thing, we added 8 years to the life of the money. That is the power of using the right ruler. But, every good story has a villain. And in this story of retirement, the villain has a name: sequence of returns risk. This is the real retirement killer. It's the silent danger that a bad market hits right at the beginning of your retirement, forcing you to sell your investments when they're at their absolute lowest just to pay your bills. When that happens, those investments are gone for good, and your portfolio can get so damaged it never really recovers, even when the market bounces back. And to make this really hit home, let's talk about a real scenario. Let's talk about Dennis. He retired back in 2018. He's 60, he's got a solid $230,000, and he has a pretty sophisticated plan. He's going to invest aggressively and delay taking his Social Security to get a bigger check later. Sounds smart, right? But that plan had a fatal flaw. In 2020, the market just fell off a cliff. His portfolio dropped all the way to $155,000. But he still had to live, so he was forced to sell low. By the time he turned 62, his balance was actually lower than when he started. The market, you see, it didn't care about his plan. Dennis had to go back to work. That's sequence risk in the real world. So how in the world do you build a plan that can actually survive a punch like that? That brings us to Section 4, the 3-pile survival plan. This is your game plan. It's a simple, tough-as-nails architecture that protects you from the exact kind of risk Dennis faced, and it gives you a super clear structure for your money. All right, let's break it down. It's so simple. Pile number 1 is what we call your floor. This is your rock-solid foundation of guaranteed income. For most of us, that's Social Security. Its only job is to cover your absolute must-pay, non-negotiable expenses. Your housing, your food, your utilities. That money comes in every month, no matter what the stock market does. That floor gives you incredible peace of mind. Pile number 2, that's your gap filler. This is your investment portfolio, your IRA, your 401k. And notice its job. It's not to cover everything. Its only job is to fill that specific gap we talked about. And finally, and this is probably the most critical part, is pile number 3, your emergency station. This is 12 to 18 months of your gap amount, not your total expenses, just the gap, sitting in safe, boring, easy-to-access cash. This is your firewall. When the market tanks, you don't touch your investments. You draw from this cash pile to fill the gap, and you give your portfolio the time it needs to heal. Now let's talk about the most powerful, and I think the most overlooked gas station on the map: a paid-off house. Seriously, most people just think of it as a lifestyle thing, a place to live. That's not the whole story. It is an incredibly powerful financial tool, and it can fundamentally change the entire retirement math equation for you. Let's look at the story of Carol. She retired at 62 with about $215,000 and a completely paid-off house. Because her house was paid off, a huge chunk of a typical budget, about 40% for most people, was just zero, gone. This meant the actual cash gap her portfolio needed to fill was tiny, less than $1,000 a month. Now imagine that same Carol had to rent an apartment for $1,600 a month. Her gap would skyrocket and her money would run out a whole 12 years earlier. A paid-off home isn't some side issue, it's a primary lever you can pull that can add more than a decade to the life of your money. It's huge. And that brings us to our final section, and honestly, it's the most important one. Let's boil all of this down into 3 simple, powerful, actionable things you can do, not someday, but like this week, to put yourself on this new, smarter path. First things first, before you do anything else, you need to calculate your income gap. This is the most important retirement planning step you can possibly take. Just take your total monthly expenses and subtract your guaranteed income, like Social Security. That number you're left with, that is your real target. That's the only thing your portfolio actually has to do. Not cover everything, just the gap. Until you know this one number, you have no idea if $200,000 is enough. Second, and this is non-negotiable, build your cash buffer, your emergency station before you retire. Don't wait until the market has already dropped. This is your personal defense system against sequence of returns risk. All it is 12 to 18 months worth of your gap amount sitting in a high-yield savings account. This isn't about finding new money, it's about reallocating what you already have. It is a single, best, lowest cost piece of insurance you can buy for your retirement. And third, you have to change how you think about work. Earning just $12,000 a year in early retirement, that's what, 12, maybe 15 hours a week at a simple job? That's not failure, it's a strategic portfolio multiplier. That little bit of income dramatically reduces how much you have to pull from your investments. It's so powerful, in fact, that it can extend the life of a $200,000 portfolio by 10 to 15 years. You're not going to find an investment strategy anywhere that can do that for you. So let's end with this one thought. The whole financial world wants you to believe you need a bigger, impossibly large gas tank. They want you to feel like you're constantly behind, constantly stressed. But the truth is, you probably don't need a bigger tank. You just need a better map. A map that actually shows you where all the gas stations are along your route. You have way more resources than you think. The real key is to just start planning your route today.